Hello, everybody. This is Robert at Prophecy Spotlight. This is number 17. It's going to be called the Eastern Horn. Now, this is a subject that's a little bit complicated, so I'm going to do it in different parts. I cannot tell everything in part one. Matter of fact, I did one. It was over an hour long, so I decided to do another one, but break it down. So our subject will be the Eastern Horn. We have seen in the previous ones, like number 15 and 16, we have talked about the Western Horn, which was found in Daniel chapter 7. Now, in Daniel 7 and Daniel 8, there are two horns mentioned. They're not the same horn, and neither of them is the Antichrist. This is so important to understand. So let's look at chapter 7, the horn of chapter 7. And there I read verse, end of verse 8. And it was different, end of verse 7, that is, it was different from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, they came up among them another, a little horn, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up to the roots. So here we have a horn. The origin of this horn is from the fourth beast. And the fourth beast is the Roman Empire, the revised Roman Empire to come at a future date. Now here it is said it had 10 horns. So there's a beast with 10 horns, which is the image that we find in Revelation. 7 heads, 10 horns. 7 heads, 10 horns. That's always the image of the revived Roman Empire. So chapter 7, which speaks about the fourth beast, which is the Roman beast, out of this empire will come out a horn. He will be of Roman blood. He will be what scripture calls the prince to come, the future Roman prince to come that we read in Daniel 9, verse 26. This horn is their leader. So chapter 7, the horn is the future emperor, future Roman empire to come in the last days. When we read chapter 8, we go back now to the third empire. Chapter 7 was the fourth one, the Roman Empire. But now we're going back to the third empire. It is said there that the ram, I'm reading, let's say, chapter 8, verse 3. And I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, and one was higher than the other. And the higher came up last. Now the ram here is an image of the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire, or the Mid-Persian Empire, was composed of 2 entities, Persians and the Medes. Okay, together they form an empire who broke down the Babylonish Empire. They conquered them. Now it is said here the 2 horns were high. That is these 2 components, the Persian and the Medes. But one of them came up higher, which is the Persian. The Persian eventually took over. Okay, and I saw the ram, verse 4, pushing westward. So the ram now is pushing westward. Now, this is important. We will shortly take a look at the difference between the East and the West. Here we see that the Persian leaders or the Persian Empire were pushing west. Up to this time, up to this Third Empire, the war zone was always the East. But now this Persian king wants to be bigger and stronger, and he pushes towards the West. Now, I'll try to show some pictures of the difference between the East and the West. But the West, the frontier between the East and the West in prophetic time was the Mediterranean Sea. The moment you cross the Mediterranean Sea, you are entering into the West. Like I said, all the wars, all the disputes were always in the East up to here. But now, under the Third Empire, they go west. So they decide to invade the Western world. And so this king, this Persian king, came in and attacked the Greek people, Macedonia, the Greek. And there was a big war there. History will can tell you these things. There was a big war there. And eventually, the people, the Western people, the Greek, realized that for the first time, they had been invaded by the East. And over the years, they said to themselves, never again, never will someone come from the East to invade us. We will go west. We will go towards the East. And then came along what we called, and I was considered, I'm reading verse 5, and as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west. So from the west now comes this new personage, the he-goat, which is the Greek army, the Greek empire. And the he-goat came up and attacked now the East. As a matter of fact, this speaks about Alexander the Great. He was a very, very powerful man, but he was also a wise man. He knew how to make war. And he crossed over the Mediterranean and he destroyed the Persian armies. And he came in control now of the East. Now, Alexander the Alexander the Great, we read in verse 8, and the he-goat became exceeding great. And it was when he was become strong, the great horn was broken. The great horn was broken. That is to say, the leader, Alexander the Great, died. And then it was broken, and in its stead came up four notable ones toward the four winds of the heavens. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. There's your expression now, a little horn. When Alexander the Great died, he had conquered everything in the East. He had gone up to India, which no one had done. So his empire was very, very large. At about the age 30, he died. And his four generals took over, and the strongest one would take over everything. Anyways, it ended up with four. So the empire was divided in four. But scriptures speaks more about two. The one in the south, which is Egypt, and the one in the north, which was Syria. And between the south and the north, there was always these fighting going on, who would conquer. And they ended up fighting most of the time in Jerusalem because Jerusalem was halfway. Why fight in your own country when you can fight in a land that's not even yours? So this is what these two kings, and we read that quite in chapter 11. You get a history of all the kings of the south and all the kings of the north that came in and wrestled once against the other. Now this little horn, it is said it came out of the four. Okay, so out of this Greek empire, which was one under Alexander, was broken down in four, and Scripture says one of them was called, and out of one of them came forth the little horn. So now we are going to have a man in power. He will be from Syria, the north of Israel. And this man will become powerful. We get in history the rise of this horn, but it is only a sample, a preview of a greater one to come in the future of prophecy. There is a coming leader. There is a coming king that will rise up in the north of Israel. And this leader is not the Antichrist. He is called the King of the North. In Old Testament times, from the north came in the Assyrian. The Assyrian was the attacker that came from the north. The Assyrian was the first invader, and he took over the 10 tribes and brought them north, and to this day they are there. So the first invader was from the north, called the Assyrian. Now Scripture tells us there is a future prophetic personage that will come forth from the north. Now when you look at the north of Israel, you see Syria and you see Turkey. All this land is Muslim now. And the Muslims want to destroy Israel. They want to push Israel to the Mediterranean. So this little horn will become very, very important. He will try to destroy the Jewish people. He's not a religious person. He's not the Antichrist. He's a warrior. He's a political leader. He's a mighty king. And with him will be a lot of people that will come in. In the Old Testament, he is called the Assyrian, the overflowing scourge. Now this, as I said, is the first enemy, but in prophetic times, he will become the last enemy of Israel. When Israel was known of God, recognized as God, he came in, took the 10 tribes away. In future prophecy, when again Israel is known of God, when Israel becomes again Ami, that is to say, my people, then they will come out a horn from the north who will rush to destroy Jerusalem and the Jewish people. So this prophetic personage is very important. He will come from the east. He's called the Eastern Horn. Chapter 7, the Western Horn. Chapter 8, the Eastern Horn. Like I said, we learn to distinguish that which differs. So for now, I will stop for the moment, let you read these 2 chapters. And the main thing to realize is in chapter 7. We have the fourth empire. Out of this fourth empire will come a horn, the future Roman prince to come. Chapter 8, we have a different horn coming up. This horn comes from the third empire, the Grecian empire, Greek. And out of this, after Alexander the Great died, came up four generals. And out of them will come now a little horn. And this little horn will be powerful. But he is not the Antichrist. He is the king of the north. So often in scripture we read about the king of the north. He is the Assyrian, which is another expression which speaks of the invader that came from the north. And this individual will play an important part. We'll get to that in part number 2. So, hope you enjoyed that. So the Lord keep you and make you a blessing. Bye.